You're listening
to the CD Baby
CD Baby
DIY
Musician
Podcast.
Hey there, and welcome to episode number 172 of the CD Baby DIY Musician Podcast. My name is Kevin Bruner, and joining me is Chris Robley. Chris, how you doing?
I'm good. I have mailed off a bunch of concert posters for my first tour in quite a long time, so I'm excited about that.
Where are you going?
Well, it's a tour in quotes. It's only 5 dates. One of them being Chicago for since I'd be there for our conference anyways, I should set up a gig. And then besides that, Burlington, Vermont, Portland, Maine, Providence, Rhode Island, and I think the town's called Dennis. It's in Cape Cod in Massachusetts.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah. Shaking off the rust of all the time not touring.
We're planning some shows for Small Town Poets this Christmas, and we were just discussing some of those kind of details as well. In something totally different, a different artist's news. I'm not going to say their name, but I was just on the phone with an independent artist who's making $20,000 a month from Pandora. So all you Pandora haters out there, you might have misplaced your hate because this is just a solo pianist, and Pandora's her main source of revenue. And I asked her to repeat it multiple times that it was, in fact, $20,000 a month. If I was doing that on Pandora, I probably would not be here at this building anymore.
No, because, especially whenever you hear those kinds of stories, it's just one revenue stream. On top of that, she must have CD sales and, whatever else, live concert ticket sales.
Yeah, and it's, like I said, it's not like mainstream pop band. It's a solo piano artist. Now, I've heard that the solo piano artist community does quite well on Pandora, but that was the first time in a while that I've heard hard numbers, and I immediately got off the phone, and I'm looking to set up piano lessons for myself so I can start my solo piano career.
We're in the wrong genre, clearly.
That's right. Anyone can play guitar. You can play 3 chords after an hour, so I've got to move on to piano. Anyway, so there is money to be made out there, people.
And probably my mom is listening to her music, because those are the exact kind of stations my mom creates on Pandora.
And I think the interesting thing is it highlights, I know when we were talking a while back, we featured the Perrin Lamb story. We got that story in the New York Times, and it was about, someone having success from streaming. As an independent artist, when you see the mainstream media hating on something, mainstream industry, I should say, hating on something like Pandora and stuff, it's good to understand their side of the story, but they may not have the independent artist interest in mind, and there may be success happening that's being characterized the wrong way. So it's a lesson for all of us. You should know all the facts, hear all the stories from every angle before you start judging whether or not something is good for independent artists or not.
Sure, and I know we've talked about this a lot before too, but particularly in Pandora's case, a lot of the haters end up comparing apples with oranges. They think when they're comparing payout rates and stuff, they're thinking about terrestrial radio's equivalent, which, anyways, we could go down a whole episode of that.
Yeah.
But oftentimes people are not equating similar things.
Yeah, they're comparing one play on a major market station to one play on Pandora, where one play on Pandora is going to one person, where one play on a major market, it could be going to hundreds of thousands of people. So very different things. All right. Well, we have some news to discuss, and then we thought it would be great to do a preview of the DIY Musician Conference coming up in just like 2 weeks at this point. I think it's 2 weeks from today when we're recording in Chicago, and wanted to give a preview. We hope to see everyone that listens to this podcast there, as many that can make it. We hope to see you there. It's going to be a great time. So we want to give a preview of that, talk about some of the things we're looking forward to, some things that will definitely be worth your time and effort to get to Chicago to see. So we'll do that. But first, we've got some news.
CD Baby.
Music.
At the recent Apple event, CEO Tim Cook said that Apple Music is now up to 17 million subscribers. That's up from 15 million in June. Tim Cook also said that Apple Music has become the premier destination for artists to exclusively debut new music. It appears that Apple's strategy of exclusive first releases might be working, and they claim to have had debuted more than 70 music exclusives this past year. Apple Music is showing strong growth, but still far off from their aggressive goal of 100 million users. On the heels of the Apple announcement, Spotify announced that it has hit the 40 million paid subscriber mark. They hit that mark just 6 months after passing 30 million paid users. So definitely lots of growth going in streaming. Pandora just announced the launch of Pandora Plus, an ad-free, non-interactive subscription radio service that will give users the ability to replay songs, skip more tracks, access stations offline, and more for just $4.99 a month. This is essentially a rebranding of Pandora One with significant upgrades, so in the coming months, current Pandora One subscribers will be transitioned to the new Pandora Plus automatically. Important, these new features do not mean that Pandora is fully on-demand streaming service yet, but they do allow for more interactivity than previously available on the service. Just to show where streaming is taking this whole thing, just when you thought we'd seen everything with the talent-based TV shows, the folks in Norway will soon be getting The Stream, a new TV music talent show which claims to reflect how the music industry works today and is associated with all 3 major labels and Spotify. Artists will be encouraged to upload live webcam videos to The Stream's site. From there, artists with the most streams will be selected to go on to the next round. It will get whittled down through several rounds to 40 artists that will be selected to perform on The Stream. Every one of these contestants will also receive a firm record contract from Universal, Sony, or Warner. Single deals, probably, for the run of the show. Here's where things get a bit different from X Factor, American Idol. These lucky few artists perform live on the show, and their tracks are immediately released on Spotify at the end of each episode. The most streamed artists on Spotify stay in the competition, and the least streamed artists risk eviction. In the end, the artist with the most streams has the chance to win the show. So it's all streaming news these days, Chris. And
I was just going to say all 4 of these stories are streaming music news items.
We even have a game show, and every time I read it, it was hard for me to not go, The Stream.
The Stream.
I just feel like that's how it should be said.
So it's a Norwegian Spotify popularity contest.
Correct. And, you know,
And-
when I read about it, on one hand, it's kind of like, hey, that's an interesting idea, because there are some great webcam video artists. In fact, we did our cover song contest for the summer that just wrapped up recently, and there was one guy who had a mind-blowing voice that I saw, just, you know, him singing and a guy playing acoustic guitar in front of a webcam. So it can be interesting to hear, you know, some just raw talent that way. But I think it's the idea of they're trying to make it, you know, skip all the stuff with, you know, judges going to all these places and just like get to the talent.
Oh, that's where a lot of the drama is, though. Like that's when I tuned into American Idol, and once the finalists were all picked, I checked out.
That's true. It always was funny to see someone whose mom clearly told them they had lots of talent, and it kind of stopped there.
Speaking of moms, another thing about this show, I was thinking if you were a contestant, you could have your family and your friends and your fans all at home with like 20 computers and all their phone devices and tablets all queued up to Spotify, and then just, you know, like game the system that way, or just pay a bot to keep hitting your
Well, yeah, that's the first thing I thought of when I saw this. Anytime you make some sort of contest that's based on plays, people game the system, And there's going to be people writing little programs for bots to go and stream stuff a lot. There's going to be people like having like exactly what you said, getting tons of computers, going to the library and turning every computer on to Spotify and streaming those songs. There's going to be issues. I almost wonder if they specifically chose a smaller market like Norway to iron out the details before they bring it to the US and the UK,
Right.
because you know that's got to be coming. But I saw that. I'm like, we see people every day at CD Baby try to game the system, and there's no way that's not happening here. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah. Does Spotify have the ability to, they must, determine how many of your streams are like with the volume off?
I don't know. I know that with the volume off, the ads don't play if you're in the... but I think it may not play if you turn the volume off. If you can turn it all the way down. I know that it used to be that if you turn the ads down to a certain volume level, they would pause. But I'm paying for Spotify now, so I don't know. I've never tried to listen to it with the volume off, so I'm not trying to scam the system.
That's not what you do all day here?
No. That's what I'm doing at work. I come to work, I turn every computer on in the building and start streaming Small Town Poets and Hello Morning, and then until people show up and go, why is this on my computer? Yeah, so lots of stuff happening as we head into towards 2017. We are in a streaming economy. We've got streaming game shows now. It's a streaming world. It's here. We must embrace it, like it or not. It's here. Well, let's get to our preview of the DIY Musician Conference. This is our second annual DIY Musician Conference happening September 30th through October 2nd in Chicago. You can still get tickets. They are $129, which is still a steal for the kind of content you will be getting. We've taken great pains to vet all the speakers, meet with them, find out what they're going to be presenting, which you may not know that's not common. You go to a lot of conferences and they get some people to fill in a panel. They have no idea what they're going to say. They don't have any sort of pressure put on them to deliver the goods for the people paying to come to the conference. It's really usually a mixed bag. And we have been determined to make sure that this is an excellent learning environment for independent artists. And I'm excited to go because I think there's a lot of great stuff happening that I'm excited to learn about and hear more about, and just being with artists in general. So you can go see the entire schedule at DIYmusiciancon.com, and you can also buy tickets there. And you may still be able to get a hotel room. I know they extended the hotel deadline a little bit, but depending on when you're hearing this, you may or may not be able to go get a hotel room. There's people from 17 different countries coming. That's the cool thing. Last year we had 12 different countries represented. This year we have 17. We've got like 44 states coming, and I'm hoping to push that a little bit more and see if we can get some folks from Montana or Wisconsin or Wyoming out. But yeah, it's going to be a great event. We wanted to talk about it and give a little preview. We did this last year. And just talk about some of the things we're looking for. So we kind of put together 5 things each. Mine aren't in any particular order, but I just kind of grabbed 5 things that I'm really excited about that I think are worth mentioning, and I know Chris did the same. Before we get into those, I wanted to mention that I thought it was really cool as we were, pulling together all the programming. We were looking at the feedback from last year's conference, what people were wanting, and things that would be cool to add. We started pulling programming together, and I noticed that several distinct themes started happening that were emerging. One was there's definitely a sync licensing thread going through the whole event, and there's a YouTube thread with some more YouTube-specific programming. There's some songwriting stuff happening. Last year we didn't have really any songwriting sessions, and there's definitely a couple sessions geared right at that. And there's a playlisting thread, which is one that I'm really excited about. And there's also NPRs there. And to me, I looked at that list and I thought, that's not all the topics. There's a whole lot more topics, but those are some key things that are happening. And I looked at that and I said, you know what? The cool thing I like about that is when we see breakout success happening here at CD Baby, a lot of times one of those elements is involved, whether it's sync licensing, YouTube, playlisting, or NPR. And that I thought that was cool because I felt like we're really sticking true to the mission of the conference and providing something that really ties to artist success and not what the mainstream industry wants to talk about and gab about, which usually isn't that helpful for an independent artist. But I feel like we put together an event that is incredibly helpful for independent artists and really tied to the ways that we're seeing independent artists have success.
Yeah, and plug for the sponsors too. Like you're saying, we see a lot of indie artists having success in those 4 areas, but also you mentioned earlier the woman who's doing really well on Pandora. Pandora is going to be there as a sponsor. So, Berkeley, Gig Salad, there's going to be great companies that can really be beneficial. Sweetwater. But yeah, this gives you a chance to, hang out with those people, talk to them, get to know, what you could be doing better to take advantage of their services. So
yeah, Pandora is going to be doing some little workshops, and I'm excited about. So you can come meet some people from Pandora and get tips, advice, and information on how to best use the platform. They've actually been launching a lot of really cool artist tools, and I know they're planning on rolling more out. So it's great to see those companies involved. Yeah, a lot of companies that are involved are really interested in helping independent artists move their career forward as well. And Lander will be there, MerchCat, just some great companies that are very useful to meet and be using their stuff. So yeah, I'm excited that more and more people like the Pandoras, and we didn't get YouTube on board for this year, but we're already talking about next year, and that they're actually wanting to hear from the independent artists, wanting to be amongst them and to learn from them and teach them how they can help them. And it just, I think, points to an optimistic future with lots of opportunity.
Sweet.
So let's get into your...
Hey, you want me to kick it off? Okay.
Mine are in no particular order, I will say. So you can start however you want.
Well, I'll start maybe chronologically then, because the first thing I was thinking was, in a lot of ways, the kickoff event for this, which is the open mic. Basically, we did what we did last year. We've picked a number of artists ahead of time, so they can show up prepared, and but we've also left a number of slots open, so artists can come and put their name in the hat and play. And last year was so cool. Like, I felt like it was really well attended. There was a really great vibe. People were there and meeting each other. And then on stage, there was hip hop artists. There was like a bluegrass band. There was R&B singers. There was a Zydeco accordion player, like a really diverse group of really talented musicians, which I felt like set the tone for the whole conference, really, of like, we all do different things musically, but here we are together. We have all these common pursuits, and so let's just, I don't know. It was great for setting the tone, so I'm really looking forward to that again.
Yeah, I showed up late to that last year just because I had some conference stuff I had to attend to, or it might have been personal stuff like actually eating something for the first time that day. I was so busy the whole day. So I showed up like an hour late, and I was expecting it to be sort of a mellow environment. And I walk in, there's a guy rocking an accordion on stage. Everyone's dancing. It's crazy loud, and the place is going wild. I thought, wow, what on earth is this? And this is not what I expected. It was way better. And it ended up being more of a party atmosphere than I was expecting. There were some more like intimate songs being shared and more of the typical singer-songwriter, open mic type things happening. But there was a lot of really cool performances that were high energy, and it was just a lot of fun. And I think this year it's going to be even better, because last year the conference was in late October. It was kind of rainy and starting to get cold outside in Chicago, and the venue that we're at has this big outdoor patio, and most people weren't taking advantage of that because it was kind of rainy and gross. And that outdoor patio looks at the Chicago skyline. It's a very cool spot. Yeah, that's the Bottom Lounge in Chicago Friday night, and I'm looking forward to that again. It'll be a good time.
Yeah, and if you're going to the conference and you're interested in that, just make sure you show up on the early side, because the earlier you put your name in the hat, the more opportunities you'll have to potentially be picked. So yeah, show up early.
Yeah. All right. My first thing that I put on here, like I said, no particular order. I'm really excited about some of the content around playlisting. Ben Hubbard, who works here at CD Baby, he's been talking a lot about it, and he's leading a couple small workshops in the CD Baby HQ room, the CD Baby headquarters. And then we also have somebody who pitches artists to big playlists. Like, it's almost like radio promotion. He pitches tracks to big playlisters. He's going to be speaking in a session. Just the thing I like about it is, talking to Ben, there's so many interesting things you can do with playlists, specifically with Spotify, that I think can really make the streaming world feel like it's what do I want to say? More engaging, but it's also the ability to sort of repurpose your content. So you can keep making playlists, whether it's based on, here's our set list from last night, here's us plus some of our favorite bands. Or there's all these different ways you can use playlisting to get people into your music, and it feels more alive and just ways to get.
Yeah, there's a way of you sort of said it's the same old content in a way, but you're personalizing it, and so whether it's your own music and you're saying like, hey, what should my set list be tonight? And you create a collaborative playlist with other people, or, it could be like, hey, here's a bunch of bands in my town that I really like. And then you throw some of your music in there too. It's like you're taking stuff that's already out there, but just giving it this a little bit, kind of an emotional hook or something like that.
Yeah. And that's something that you couldn't do in the download world. So I think it points to some of the real advantages that the streaming world can provide. And so I'm excited to go learn about some of these things. And we're hoping to provide some more of that content on our blog here at CD Baby, and put together a guide and help people understand the opportunity there, because it's a way to sort of repurpose content, keep it alive, keep it fresh. And I think for once there may be some strategic reasons to build some followers on a platform that will actually benefit you as opposed to benefiting the platform. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. What do you got for number 2?
Let's see. Number 2, I'm really excited to hear Bob Boilen and Galen Lee speak. So Bob Boilen is the host of All Things Considered, and for years he picked all songs considered. And for years his job was to pick the music that was on All Things Considered, and then he also is the kind of curator of the Tiny Desk concerts and the oversees the Tiny Desk contest, which Galen Lee won this past year. So she's going to be there as well, talking about, I think, how that's sort of changed her music career, and she might play some songs. But particularly, I'm interested to hear Bob talk about the types of things artists can do to, better position themselves to get the attention of gatekeepers or tastemakers. And, I've heard things he's said in the past, and it's... he's got kind of a no-nonsense way of helping people get to the point of figuring out how, because there's a way you have to adjust your mindset and say, well, what do they need? Not just like, hey, I want to send my music to them and what can they do for me? But really tailoring your pitch to suit the needs of, whatever tastemaker you're trying to appeal to. So I think that'll be a really good keynote.
Yeah, that one will be good. It is... it's going to be moderated by Dimitri, our publicist, who works for Rock, Paper, Scissors Publicity, or he owns Rock, Paper, Scissors Publicity. And he's excellent at interviews, so I know that that's going to be a really good interview and a big highlight of the conference. And like I've mentioned at the beginning, whenever we see artists get their music on NPR, even sometimes just played in some of the shows, like All Songs Considered, like just getting it featured, we see that translate into good things almost immediately. And sometimes it's almost like a fire alarm went off here. It's like, why are the phones lighting up in the, and this CD is suddenly just
This
shooting
person
off
who
like a
hadn't,
rocket.
sold a CD in 3 months suddenly is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're is a hot commodity, and we're scrambling to get more product. It's a lot of times it's because of NPR. So it's definitely does good things for independent artist music. My next item is the Tom Jackson live band makeover. I've seen him do this live twice. One time was at the most recent time was at our conference last year, and having been able to be in a band where he worked with us and saw how it transformed our live set. Every time I see it, I think it's just inspiring for several reasons. Even if you don't play live, I think it's a stark reminder of the difference between people that just show up and go through the motions or just follow along the crowd and people that put together a professional experience. And I think it's just when you see it happen and you just see it, it reminds you that there's definitely room for improvement. No matter who you are, there's still room to make something work better. And then also, it kind of just makes me think that how many people, Tom even talks about how many people refuse to do these kind of things. And it's like, you're an artist and you've got good music and you refuse to do things that will improve your chances of connecting with the audience, selling more merch, getting better shows, getting more fans. It's like, why would you be against that?
I mean, I feel like that tendency is always like in the guise of being too cool for school, but really what it is like fear of either feeling like a fool or looking like a fool, or fear of actually failing to deliver in a more physical or, stage presence kind of way. But yeah, like, what do you have to lose? Like, this is just like your chance to play, especially if you do it in your rehearsals, like just play around. Like, and these are concepts you get to watch Tom, guide bands through right in front of you. So,
yeah. And I think a lot of people think it's like, I don't want to run all over the stage. And actually that's not what he's telling you to do. He's telling you to be intentional with your live set. It's to the point that, if I had the opportunity to be in any new band at this point, outside of any projects I'm currently in, where I would say, unless you're willing to, do this, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in going and playing a club. I don't care if there's 10 people there or 1,000 people there. I'm not interested in going and playing a gig half-heartedly where I feel like we're just leaving the opportunity all over the place. And it's just, this stuff works. And it's amazing to see. We have the band, I believe, all locked in for this time around. I have not heard their music yet, but...
is it true that it's a singer-songwriter?
There is a band, but Tom did say that there will probably be time for a singer-songwriter as well, so I think we're lining that up. So the idea being that he doesn't just work with bands. The reason why for the live band makeover it's typically easier to have a full band is because it's more obvious. Like when you have just a short period of time, it's really easy with 5 people on the stage to make some obvious changes in how it affects the overall thing. The singer-songwriter makeover is a little more subtle, and I think if you're just watching as like, hey, I'm watching this makeover happen, you can see some cool stuff happen because I've seen him do that before, but it's something that you'll definitely feel more as the artist next time you play that more intimate singer-songwriter gig. But we are trying to get that as well. So it's not just for rock bands.
Yeah, and I feel like I say this every time we talk about Tom Jackson, but from all of the stuff I've seen, whether it's a video or a live band makeover, no matter who he's working with, the same exact concepts apply to everyone. Like whether you're a hip-hop band or a world music ensemble, a singer-songwriter that's just alone on stage. So it's really impressive that way. And I think it's cool that I think this year, doesn't he have almost twice as much time as he did last year?
Last year he had an hour and a half, but it was right up against other sessions. This year he's the evening event, and he has from 7 to 9. So he's got extra time, and if he runs over a little bit, it's no big deal. So definitely be there for that. It'll be a good experience that inspires you to really take your show to the next level. So what do you got for your next item,
Well, okay, so my next item, I actually can't go to because I'm doing something else, which I'm also looking forward to, of course. I'm doing a panel called 60 Ideas in 60 Minutes, which is about, music promotion and ways of moving your music forward. But at the same time as that is a session called How to Make Serious Money from House Concerts. That's going to be led by Shannon Curtis. And Shannon's been a guest on the podcast. And then last year she was part of a panel called Artists Who Break the Mold. So there were multiple artists up there, each talking about their own sort of unique ways of bucking the traditional model for success. But I think it's cool this year she's got the whole session to specifically talk about house concerts, which is something I'm, trying to get into more. So I'll have to watch the video rebroadcast of it.
Yeah, Shanna's great. We had her on the podcast a while back, and she has done, this might be her third or fourth summer of house concerts. I know she has a book out about it that's very insightful.
I think she did 90 dates this summer, or is coming to the end of 90 dates.
She's saying on Instagram, she keeps posting photos like day something of 101 days. So I don't know how many actual shows she did. I think it was like 90 shows. But yeah, she's going to be rolling off the road right into this. So she'll have a lot of great new insights and I think be ready to spill it all, the good, the bad, what worked, what didn't, and give great advice to artists who are hoping to do the same thing. So it's making, it sounds like it's making most of her money for the year from touring, just doing those really targeted house concerts through the whole summer. So that will be a great session. My next item is not a session, but it's something that I'm really excited about that we were able to pull off this year, is that everyone who comes will have the opportunity to get free band photos. We got Becky Yee. She spoke last year, and she's speaking again, but she's a commercial photographer from New York City, and we got a room right in the conference area that she's going to set up photo gear, and we're going to funnel people through, and she's going to snap some band photos, and I'm really excited about that. I think it's going to be a great perk for artists. It's not going to be an hour, 2 hour long session, but she's such a pro that she can pull your group in or just you, and in a couple minutes have probably several poses and frame it right. It'll be lit well. It'll probably be a white backdrop, and away you go. You'll have a solid press photo or just photo for your website that you can use.
Yeah, and I feel like even if she's only got, a minute, she's probably going to get something better than what your, amateur photographer friend would get over a matter of a couple hours if, you're sort of scrambling around without much vision.
I'll have to ask her if she has a train track background, because we might need that.
And brick walls. If it's a white background, maybe you can color key in the brick wall if that's really what you want. The other thing, I whenever you talk about that, I think of when you get off the roller coaster at the amusement park and you walk by the little thing and you can buy the photo in the Disney frame or whatever for $15. This is, this won't be that. No charge. Hopefully you'll look just as excited.
Yeah, I mean, we can create some cheesy DIY musician conference photo frame if that makes you feel better, but no, this will be completely yours to do with what you will. I think what's going to happen is Becky is just going to put them up all on her server, and artists will just have to go through and download them. There will be no extra charge, and so we're figuring out the delivery method, but it'll be something where we'll email everybody a link, and they can download all the options. So looking forward to that. What you got next?
Okay, so my next one, I'm looking forward to your keynote, which is, what's it called? Cutting Through the Noise.
Yes, it is.
Mostly just because I have, I've heard about many of your talks before at ASCAP and various events, but I've actually never seen you deliver something on your own. Last year we did a thing together. So it'll be nice to just sit down and watch you give a speech that will blow everyone's minds and change everyone's lives for the better.
I better get working on that.
With an amazing slideshow, dancers, confetti.
Well, now you're just exaggerating. Up until that point, it was all true.
Yeah. Balloons dropping down like the Democratic Convention.
Yeah. The pressure is on. The balloons, that's not a bad idea. The pressure is on. Because now that you mention it, I'm not sure if anyone from CD Baby has ever seen me speak. And I do it all the time. That's what's so funny. Maybe Danielle has. I don't know. But yeah, it should be good. I'm excited about the outline. I think there's some good content. I'm still figuring out the flow and all that. But the pressure is on because, like I said, not many people from CD Baby have actually seen me speak, but my boss and his boss will be there, which that freaks me out more than anything.
Now I'm picturing them in the front row with little number signs, like, Olympic judges.
Yeah, no, they'll be sitting there with arms crossed, just kind of like shaking their heads now.
or just texting the whole time.
Yeah, that's even worse. Like, could you get off your phone and at least act like something I'm saying is interesting? No, I think it'll be good. I'm glad I'm going first because I couldn't handle having that hanging over me and enjoy the rest of the conference and also do my job, which is make sure the conference happens.
Runs.
So,
right.
So, and I'm using it also to point to a lot of the content that's going to be happening throughout the week because, the basic premise of what I'm going to be talking about is that it happens to me, it happens to you, it happens to a lot of people that work in the industry, and especially with independent artists these days. We meet artists and they come up and say, how do I break through the noise? How do I cut through? I get my music out there. My music's worldwide now, but how do I get people to actually notice? So I'm going to talk about those things. And I think it'll be some different ideas than what people expect, and sort of reframing the question and the answer from what a lot of people get. So it should be good.
Sweet.
All right,
I know it will be good.
Yeah, it's always weird when you're standing up in front of people because as an audience member, you kind of feel like you're in the crowd, and it's like nobody notices that you're like kind of looking at your phone every once in a while, or that you have your face looks like you'd rather be doing anything else than what you're doing right now, even if you're listening intent. But when you're on stage and you see like 1,000 people doing that, looking back at you, you're kind of like, this sucks, I think, because that joke didn't land and they're all just staring at me. Did anybody like this? If you don't like it, I can stop and we can go do something else. But it'll be good. My next item is Jack Conte is speaking, and he's been on the podcast a couple times, and he's always entertaining, and I think he's just one of those DIY artists to the core where so far to the point that he started his own company called Patreon that's doing quite well. But his story is always interesting to listen to, and I love the way where he kind of he'll run into a problem and he'll just try and figure out how to solve it. And his whole artist journey to being a YouTube artist, YouTube first, and then trying to figure out better ways to monetize that activity that led to starting Patreon. It's always interesting to hear artists talk that are pursuing music in a way that is totally outside the mainstream industry, and that he's kind of been one of the leaders in that area. So I love listening to people like that talk. It's always inspiring. I get lots of ideas, and then I think, man, he's got a lot of energy. How does he get all that energy?
Well, he also has a number of things he could talk about too, which will make it interesting. He's a lot of their early success was cover songs. So there's video production, being on a content schedule. There's fan engagement. There's a sort of crowdfunding aspect to Patreon, the sort of, I guess it is a fan funding service. Essentially, there's just lots of ways he could go. So I'm curious how he'll tie it all together.
It'll be interesting. What do you got? Is this your last one?
Yeah, so my last one's a little bit like my first one. It's not an educational thing. It's not even really an event. It's sort of the whole event and the community vibe of the event, and how artists last year just had this great supportive attitude. Everyone was very encouraging to one another, and I think learned probably as much from one another as they did from the stuff we had scheduled, which was really, I thought, special and cool to see. like I was saying earlier, artists that make very different kinds of music coming together and being like, well, we're both trying to do this one thing. So like, what do you do? And what do you do? And I thought it was unlike any other music event I've gone to, in terms of, it did almost feel like a family, a very extremely large family where you kind of forget your second cousin's name, but everyone is, just super helpful. And I was very proud of that.
Yeah, it was one of those things that everybody from our staff that attended was just like, whoa, that was just such a positive feeling environment. Everyone was happy to be there, excited to be there. People were talking like crazy. I thought it would be more like a lot of the other conferences I go to where, before sessions, everyone just sits there quietly. They don't talk to each other. They get up and leave after it's over, and then they go to the next thing, and not a lot of hanging out going on. This was just like, man, from the moment we opened the doors, very literally, it was just this wave of artists came in, and it was just like a party. And it was so good because people were meeting people from other genres, from different locations, and really...
It wasn't, I guess the word I was looking for, a lot of other events feel cliquish to me.
Yeah.
Either people are have already formed their little tribes and they're used to the event, or they're shy or whatever. But this was not like that at all. It was like everyone was just part of this thing together.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, because like I've been to some like tech things in the Bay Area, and it's like it's clear who lives there and knows each other, and it's clear who is the outsiders, who are from other places. Yeah. And this was not like that at all. It was just like people were excited to be there, meeting each other and hanging out and talking and learning from one another. And that was the one major unknown going into the event, was how will people interact? Because we really wanted to create an environment where people did interact. And so I was very pleased, because, it's great to go learn from in the sessions and learn from some of the professionals and people doing cool things. But there's a lot to be learned from each other, and great ways to gain insights and also make connections in other cities. So that was awesome to see. My last item is I had Alexandra Patsavis on here. She is doing a keynote Q&A session. And the thing that I'm excited about her being there is because, one, I feel like her presence really, I won't, legitimize is a bad word, because it makes like this one thing, legitimizes the independent artist movement. But she is like the top music supervisor in Hollywood. She works on major motion pictures. Twilight series she did the music for, Hunger Games, Grey's Anatomy, her company did the music for years. And so getting on her radar is a big deal. And the idea that someone that's has major label artists just trying to get her attention all day long, someone like that coming and spending time with independent artists, I think is a big gesture for independent artists and their ability to break through in the market. And she has placed a lot of independent music that was being sold through CD Baby, that we've seen life-changing stories happen because of the before and after of the placement. Somebody completely obscure, and then she's put in a very high profile placement, and it's basically breaking their career wide open to six-figure incomes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think of her attending this conference and talking to indie artists as a gesture at all. It's like she's clearly, throughout her career, been receptive to major and completely unknown artists, as long as the song fits what she needs. And yeah, gesture is not really the right word. I think it is more of a symbol. Is that better? A symbol of the importance of independent artists. That this community is not a community that it only has value if they filter up enough to be selected by major label companies. This community has importance in of its own, and that she's drawing from that music community a lot in a way that benefits the work she's doing, because it has more flavor,
more diversity, and then it benefits the independent artist community. And so that's what I really love about that. And I don't like really saying specific artist names when we tie it to financials, just for their benefit. But she has. We've seen artists go on to make 7 figures off of a big placement or two that she has secured for that artist who started out in obscurity. There's been multiple stories like that, not necessarily 7-figure, but definitely 6-figure, where we've seen somebody just bopping along, selling, an average amount for someone who's on the road, then suddenly they're now can buy a house. And so that's really cool. I love those stories.
I'm still waiting for mine.
For your house?
I'm waiting for my. No, not the house. The 7-figure sync licensing success story.
And to clarify, I'm not saying the sync placement was 7 figures, but that they opened that placement, created such a high profile for that artist instantly that suddenly they were making more money off of touring, off of album sales, off of everything, and it was a life-changing event. So those things still do happen. It's not every day. It's not something that can be offered to everyone, but there are folks out there that do experience that. So that's I think that's the end of our list. There's other things happening like Jam Room. There's so many good sessions. We will be recording all of the sessions video, and most of them will be released. A few of them may not be, just with some stipulations we had with the speaker. Sometimes it's some content that they themselves are sort of packaging up and selling, so we try to be respectful of that. But we will try and make as most of it available on video as possible. If you can't make it, but it'll be probably a month or two afterwards before that happens. But if you are anywhere near Chicago, it will be worth your time and effort to make it out there. I was thinking that it's not that often that we get to spend a weekend with artists, and artists that we get to spend the weekend with just that many like-minded folks, especially if you're outside a major city. I know sometimes being an artist can feel sort of a lonely endeavor. There's always people telling you to go get a real job or do something else with your life. When are you going to stop that hobby? And it just gets frustrating and irritating. And you just want to be around some like-minded folks that are excited about what we're doing. And I think that points to the community aspect you're talking about, that just being among people that are like-minded, that it's a place of acceptance and not judgment.
Yeah, and you get sort of recharged in a way and inspired. But like you said, just simply knowing that there are tons of other people out there like going through the same highs and lows. So
yeah, and that you're not alone, and that this musical pursuit isn't 100% crazy like family and friends sometimes make it out to be. It might be like 20% crazy, but you got to have some of that mixed in. So
well, it might be entirely crazy, but then so is a day job. So.
That's true. I mean, my body's atrophying every day at this desk here. So so cool. Yeah, we hope to see you in Chicago. Go check out DIYmusicianCon.com again for the details. Chris and I are going to be doing a live podcast session, live taping. And I think last year we did this, and it was quite possibly the most entertaining comment I've ever received, both at a conference and on our podcast ever. People can go back and listen to that episode. What was that? That was mistake stories or something. It happened to do with mistakes. I can't remember.
I think it was like album release mistakes.
That's what it was.
5 album release mistakes or something like that.
And this year we're going to be doing something with artist branding and developing your story, and I think it's going to be a good one. So we'll be there. We'll tape it.
I was going to say, if you went last year, it'll be structured slightly differently. We want it to be a little bit more of a workshop that's kind of interactive, so that we'll have some exercises and, giving one another feedback in some way. So
yeah, we're moving it to a smaller room, so it feels a little bit more friendly and close, and we can all, it's like we're all just hanging out, all the podcast folks. So be looking for that. I can't wait to meet everybody. And I think that's it. Chris, unless you have anything else to add.
No, I'm excited. See everyone in 2 weeks.
Yeah, see you in Chicago. That's going to do it. I'll catch you there. See ya. You've been listening to the CD Baby DIY Musician Podcast, broadcasting from Portland, Oregon, USA.